Hi there. So today we're going to clear up the tips of fingers versus sides of fingers confusion. Some people have commented about this because the very first video I ever recorded has gotten a lot of attention. It's gotten a lot of great comments and it's helped a lot of people. But every now and then somebody says, but my teacher tells me the exact opposite, or somebody else says the exact opposite. And I really wasn't sure what people were being told about the tips of their fingers. So first of all, let's establish what that first lesson I made was about. You might remember it. It's about when you're playing something like a C or an F or a G7. It works really well to use the sides of your fingers as opposed to like the absolute tippy tips. In that lesson I talked about how we tend to do these right angles, which you can just see the tension and the difficulty in my arm when I do it that way. But if we put our arm out, it's just relaxed beside my body, and if the fingers bend this way instead of that way, we get this very natural shape. And it just so happens that you land on the sides of your fingers when we're playing that way. So many people have commented on like, wow, and I couldn't do it before and now I can, or there was so much pain and now the pain is gone. And then once in a while somebody will say, well, you know, the other teacher says use the tips of your fingers, so that's not confusing at all. And but I wasn't sure exactly what y'all were being told until now. So funny, because my favorite online guitar teacher posted a video about this, and I love Tony Policastro. I can wholeheartedly trust him with any of my students. He demonstrates really great technique, and I love it when you're showing somebody how to play guitar and you're using good technique. And he has a lot of great material. I'm a member of the Tony's Acoustic Challenge community myself. And so my point is, he's a very good teacher. And he said this thing about the tips of your fingers, but I watched him. Here's what it is. He was talking about how to make your chords sound good. And he made a C chord that sounded good. And I was watching his fingers very closely. He was kind of using the sides of his fingers. I kind of overemphasize it. Maybe it's just my body, or maybe it's because I've taught that. But his fingers were turned a little bit to the side. His arm was close beside his body, just like mine is. But he did say use the tips of your fingers. So here's what it is. It's the sides of the tips of your fingers. And what Tony was saying is use the tips of your fingers, not the pads. If now I'm using the pads of my fingers, and if I'm using the pads of my fingers, I'm going to be muting the adjacent strings. But if I'm on the sides of the tips of my fingers, but if there's more curve in my fingers and I'm more on the tips of my fingers, tips as opposed to pads, then you're going to get a clean sound with the adjacent strings. So, but when Tony said tips of his fingers, he didn't go like this and say right angles. He was saying what you want is curves in your fingers, not, you don't want it like that. You want the tips of your fingers. But I watched him, and he wasn't playing like this. His fingers were turned to two. And I just think it's a thing that a lot of players do, not even knowing that's what they're doing. And then a lot of people play like this, not really with an awareness that that's what they're doing. And a lot of teachers don't notice it either. So I hope that clears up the confusion. So I guess from now on I will be saying the sides of the tips of your fingers. And that's not always and forever, you know, it's not every chord you're going to play. It's just when you're here in first position and you're playing this shape, C, F, G7, and then when you get into other chords, you know, especially as you go up the neck, like when you're playing things up in here, you might be using the other side of the tips of your fingers because there's a continuum, and you know, there's exceptions to every rule. It wasn't a rule to begin with. So I hope that clears up the confusion. I just thought it was a really fun thing to discover and to understand why somebody might say tips of your fingers. Yes, tips as opposed to pads, but for down here it is going to be the sides of the tips of your fingers. So there you go. I wanted to tell you that a lot of you came over here to this channel from my old channel, Janet Drew, and I wasn't posting new lessons there, but I finally realized, well, there's a lot of subscribers there because of that first video about using the sides of your fingers. It's gotten a lot of attention and there's a lot of subscribers there, so we're going to use that channel for lessons that have to do with music in general. I'm here to teach about music in general. I really, one of my main goals is to help people learn to play music together and to help people be able to enjoy playing music together and improvise at a beginner level, because I think that's one of the best ways to develop musically, and it's, well, it's fun, you know, and everyone can jam. And so we're going to be working on lessons that have to do with music in general, things that can help you play together with your friends, or just things that will help musicians on any instrument. That's going to be on the old channel, Janet Drew, and I'll put a link to that channel in the description underneath this video, and you can always go to www.everyonecanjam.com and sign up for my email list, and you won't miss a thing. You'll find links to either YouTube channel, Facebook pages, information about lessons, and I will consistently be adding new things to the free instruction page. So I'm glad you're here, and think about coming on over to the old channel and we'll talk about music in general over there, and we'll keep having guitar lessons over here. So thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. Bye.